Hey guys, what's up? This is FalseBlues123 and guess what? I'm back! Oh yeah! So happy. So, sorry about the hiatus that's been going on my channel. I've been caught up with a lot of editing ever since the reading rush. I had to think about that, what it was for a second. And that put me behind. Videos started piling up. I'm finally finishing up my last video from this 2 month span. I believe that was my August wrap up, so beginning of the month, and I'm literally just getting to it at the end of the month, so obviously blows your mind. Obviously, by the time you see this, it's going to probably be sometime in October, but I like to share my process with you. Also, you might have noticed, I don't think I've posted this on any of my social medias, but I'm going to stand up so you can see it better. But this is my daybed. Doesn't that look so nice? I have been saving up for 3 months to get it. And I'm also having an issue with the frame. So, we're working on that, which makes me really, really unhappy. But, you didn't come in here to talk about my consumeristic woes. You came here to watch my book tag. So guys, as you know, I have been doing more bookish content. I've been wanting to get really, really into it. And as a way of sort of not dipping my toes into it per se, but I guess really and truly acknowledging the rebranding and the shift in content, I am doing the rite of passage of all Booktube channels, and that is the Book Newbie Tag, or whatever the fuck it's called. So, without much further ado, let's get into the questions. Question number 1, why did you start this channel? So, longtime watchers will know that I started my YouTube channel last year because I was a broke bitch who wanted to be less of a broke bitch. And I thought, you know what I have plenty of? Personality. Though we're saying, kid, you ain't much of a looker, but you got a great personality. And I'm just like, you know what? This is America. We can capitalize on that. Smart thinking. But I think the reason why I wanted to join Booktube was a little bit more complex. On one hand, there is a much more, I guess, easier stream of content, a lot more of a defined niche, which is nice. But I was really attracted also to the sense of community in Booktube. And since I'm kind of unaffiliated as a channel, since I'm not really fitting into a predefined niche well, I really wanted to take steps to sort of stratify my content and create a more obvious, what is this channel about? At the same time, I like having variety in my channel, and I like doing a lot of different styles of video. And so, in the future, I don't think I will ever exclusively do Booktube, but I think for this moment in time, since I'm thinking long term, I really want to explore what I can create as a creator. And I like the idea of Booktube. I like reading books, I like talking about books, and it's something that I thought would always be really fun, even at this very, very early start of my channel. So, question number 2 is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Well, I mean, you've already seen this sparkling personality. But besides that, I'm a cook. That is my profession, that is my trade, that is my raison d'etre, because I wanted to speak French for some reason. And basically, I think I can bring a lot of my own professional and personal experience to the realm of books. There is a lot of food writing out there. There is a lot of cookbooks out there. And I don't really see too much food writing or other similar elements really discussed on Booktube. I think of the maybe 20 or 30 Booktubers I regularly follow, only one of them is an actual food writer Booktuber. And so I think, as a person, I have a very innate and very unique perspective. Well, I want to say unique, but unique in this niche, where I can actually, discuss food writing from both a professional level and from a personal one. I know, what they're talking about when they say things like ossobuco or, nappage. And so, obviously, I have that background, which will allow me to not only have a professional commentary on food writing and cookbooks, but I also think it would be really fun to integrate my love of cooking with my love of reading, and maybe do videos that have a combination of both cooking and book reading. That's why I did those baking segments in my Reading Rush video, because I really want to capitalize on that syncretism. Question number 3. What are you most excited about on this channel? So, first of all, I would like to preface this, since I'm going to be discussing the Booktube community, that there is some issues that have been prevalent, that have been present within it. The main one is really the issues of representation and diversity. So, disregarding the fact that it is a female-dominated, area, which, that's chill. Some some spaces tend to be male-dominated, some spaces tend to be female-dominated. For instance, marine biologists are predominantly female, as well as nurses. This doesn't necessarily mean that men or women cannot be in these spaces, but simply that most of the time there tends to be an inclination or proclivity towards one gender or the other. Whether or not that's good or bad is not for me to say. What really I'm trying to be discussing is how racial diversity is represented and shown, specifically within the YouTube and Instagram algorithm. It tends to be, especially, I remember there was this book outlet controversy that happened a few months ago, but a lot of people have been examining how a lot of women of color, a lot of other, members of color have just not been accurately represented in how YouTube shows videos, how YouTube recommends videos, and really how there will be many very popular white creators, but women of color will also not get the same spotlight or recognition for their equally valuable content. And honestly, that's really fucked up, and I'm not really sure what we can do to fix that. But as always, I always recommend, trying to watch content, view content outside of, your niche, outside of your bubble, outside of your comfort zone. And try to diversify, your content that you watch. Discover creators that you really love that you might not have initially clicked on because you thought that they weren't, your type or your niche or the type of content you enjoy. Because a lot of the times you might surprise yourself and discover content that you love. And so, I think diversification is always important, whether it's in the representation of media you watch or in the content you choose to consume. But let's actually move on to the question at hand. I just really wanted to discuss the topic since it's very important to discuss things like this. It's always relevant and is always pertinent to the conversation. So, the reason why I was mentioning that is because one thing that drew me into the idea of a Booktube channel is the sense of the community in, Booktube land. You have a lot of events going on, like readathons, like buddy reads, like book clubs, and I am down for that shit, I want to be reading all of these readathons. And do I manage to read all of the books during the readathons? Not usually, but I love the idea of it. It's something to get you excited about, especially in times like this where we're mostly sitting at home, not doing anything. I'm just like, oh yeah, let's start, just getting shit done. So that's the main thing. It's the sense of community. It's all the fun readathons and events we can do, and I get to be a part of, because I like to do shit. Next up is question number 4. Why do you love reading? I think it's a little harder to define than I thought it would be, because I read different types of books for different reasons. If I'm reading nonfiction, generally it's for a form of education. I want to learn about something, and it's that curiosity that motivates me. But when it comes to a fictional work, a lot of it is simply the entertainment of it, the enjoyment of it. I guess on a sort of meta level, I do enjoy the escapism of reading, being able to dive into a world outside of your own and experience it. But I think from one point, I just enjoy the constructive narratives. I like to watch television, I like to listen to podcasts, I like to play video games, and all of these aspects are simply just a different format to deliver to me a story, a character doing things, and the world that it builds, and everything within it. I think with books particularly, you have a lot of elements that are really enjoyable, that are very specific to that format. You have all the common tropes and character arcs that you would expect from any other narrative-driven piece of work. But you also have, I guess, sort of the texture of writing, the use of language, and just the viscosity and texture of how everything flows together, the words used, the artfulness of the language. And so there's a lot of enjoyment in both reading the work and also enjoying the story. And so I think I love reading because I enjoy stories, but I don't know if there is a specific emotional need that is filled by me reading, if that makes sense. Question number 5. What book or series got you into reading? So this is a really hard question, if I'm being honest, because I remember that I learned to read from a fairly young age, and since by the time that I learned how to read, I generally enjoyed it. I liked everything about it. I was actually quite an avid bookworm as a kid. That was kind of my thing. I always had my nose in a book. But while I'm not sure if there is a particular book or series that was really monumental for me, I'm just going to rattle off a few books that were really, I don't know, big for me. Let's see. I think it was called The Very Enormous Turnip. It was this tiny little cardboard book about a man who grew a really big turnip. I fucking loved that book as a kid. I gave it to my little cousin for Christmas this year. Let's see. Other books that were important to me was the series Unfortunate Events. Let's see. Goosebumps. Rick Riordan's The Percy Jackson series. How to Disappear Forever and Never Be Found. The Egg and I by Betty McDonald, and The Pigman by Paul Zindel. So those are all books that, like, were really impactful to me over the course of my life, the books I love. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? First, how the hell do you read so much? It's like, on a good month, I can read maybe 10 books, but like, Books with Lala over here has like a kid and a husband and hockey games and a job, and she's just like busting through 30 books a month, and I'm just like, how? Okay, maybe it's not like 30, but it's a lot, and I'm like, how? Sometimes I can't even finish like a book a week, and peeps over here just be slamming through. So I need to know how they do that. Also, please help. I don't know how to edit or YouTube or be a competent human being, and I would like tips and pointers. So, now that I've shown my hand at being an absolute dumpster fire, let's move on to the next question. Number 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be difficult for you to overcome? So, I've definitely noticed recently that I think editing time is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I need to get over as a channel. Obviously, my editing has not been great over the last 2 months, and so this has really put my production schedule out of whack. That being said, I think another issue is really with everything that goes on in my life, because I tend to keep myself fairly busy, and this is not the only, I guess, thing that I do. I also have a blog, and everything else falls on the wayside mostly. But mostly finding time to read and finding time to edit the videos where I talk about what I read are my 2 biggest hurdles. Besides that, I don't think I have anything else I'm really concerned about. And at the moment, because people say whenever you mention a weakness you have, you should always give an action plan on how you're going to combat it, but I'm not really sure at this moment in time how I'm going to deal with these issues. I figure as I go along, I will discover, ways to increase my efficiency, and that will be that, I ain't got the answers. If I did, I wouldn't have the problems, honey. It's 2 + 2 is 4 - 3 is 1 quick math, But let's move on because I don't like these interview questions. Question number 8. When did you start reading? Wow. So, a lot of people in my family are very avid readers. I've always grown around books. And I think a bit more importantly is that my grandmother was in the preschool system. She was a family advocate, which basically means she just like goes into people's houses and says, hey, how you doing? She did wellness checks and that type of thing. And so she was pretty well versed in child development, that type of thing. And so she was one of the people that really got me into reading along with my mom and dad. And so I learned how to read from a pretty young age because of that. Now, I don't remember exactly when I started reading, but I know I was fairly young. And I started reading all sorts of things. And so by the time that I actually was a bit older, like by the time I was graduating elementary school, I had a very high reading level for my age, because I had I had a head start on a lot of this shit. And so that's pretty much the answer to it. Fairly young. I'd say maybe 5 or 6, maybe younger. I don't quite remember. But I just I read little books, then I started reading chapter books, and you understand how reading progresses with children because you were once a child. So there we go. Next question. Where do you read? So I have 2 main places I like to read. One, I listen to audiobooks in the car or when I'm walking because I don't like to have silence when I drive. It just, having something else sort of helps me keep my focus. And I like being able to listen to audiobooks when I drive because it's a period of time that is kind of an open free space in my life, you know? It's not something where I'm doing much else besides being on the road. And so I get a good 20 minutes, half an hour of listening time during that period. I also like to read in bed, which honestly I need to start doing more of because my reading habits lately have been shit, but it's whatevs. So there you go. I'm not the type of person that likes to sit on my balcony and read because I don't have a balcony, but I don't know, like, I'm a comfort reader. I either want to be laying down or cozied up with a book, or I'm like, doing something I can listen to with my headphones. I really like audiobooks because it's just, there's no fuss to it. You don't have to make time because you're doing something that you can just listen to. It's much more passive. Last question is number 10. What kind of books do you read? So I read a lot of different types of books. Mainly the books on my shelves are classics, sci-fi, some fantasy, and some young adult. The books I've been reading currently are mostly food writing, memoirs, which is definitely a new genre that I'm definitely liking. I didn't care for them as kids, but now I like it, so that's chill. And I also enjoy graphic novels and manga very much so. The only genre that I'm really not that into is romance. There are a few romance series and books that I've really loved, but a lot of times I'm just not that into romance. Oh, I didn't mention it, but I'm also not the biggest fan of, like, I guess, high fantasy, but I do love urban fantasy, to make that distinction. So, I think that was all the questions, and I realize I'm not a very snappy person when it comes to tags. I like to pontificate, but if you're watching my channel, you know this by now. Anyway, guys, I'm going to shut up because I'm really working on making shorter videos and being much more brief in my answers. So, yeah. Remember, guys, wash your hands, tell your loved ones you love them, and be a good person every single day, best as you can. This is False Blues 1, 2, 3, and you guessed it, signing off.